Perfect. I'll record in my end.
Yeah, we did our podcast this morning too, and
Oh, brilliant!
it
You're
was
you're
just funny.
launching you're rebranding it, John.
We branded it, yeah. But it was just funny this morning because Amber came on like, and I was just like, She's like,
Is it
oh, this is gonna be a good one.
is it the same three again, John? Yourself, Amber,
Uh, it's basically Len and I. Amber's in the background. Like today, she actually wasn't on it at all because her son was there. Carolina's not on the show anymore. And
yeah,
it's like a little bit different format. We're a little bit more focused in than we were before, but still fun and irreverent and silly
yeah.
and stuff like that. But
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I listened to every single one of them when you in your previous launch. I loved them all.
they were fun,
Tuesday and
man.
Thursday.
Yeah, they were fun. They were fun. It was one of those projects that I think I just really needed at the time. Like I don't know how much like value it delivered, but um it was super fun to do. Something I look forward to do every week. So that made
Yeah,
sense.
awesome. Awesome. John, I will hit record, so I'll be respectful of your time as well.
Cool,
Alrighty,
man.
let's do this. Thanks so much for coming on. Welcome back to the Lifestyle Lifters Show. Today's guest is the author of 11 books. He's the author of the largest blog for PTs, the Personal Trainer Development Center. He's founder of the world's very first certification for online coaches, the Online Trainer Academy, and he's been featured in magazines like Men's Health, Forbes, and many more. Super pumped to welcome the one and only Jonathan Goodman to the Lifestyle Lifters Show. John,
What's up,
thanks for
man?
being here.
Yeah, what's up, man? I'm gonna do my best trying to understand your accent. This is gonna be fun.
I was Irish. Jason already told me I speak a little fast, so I don't recommend the listeners to put this on to 2x.
But
John, before
you're not like the Irish. You're not Irish, you know? Like you're not coming up from Cork or something like that, where it's just I would just be screwed. I mean, I would just have no chance.
yeah, I've no hard Cork accent. My brother-in-law is actually from Cork, or nothing on the Dubs either, John. I'm not sure if you've heard the Dublin one.
The only time that I did, so I spoke in Ireland once. The University College Dublin brought me out to do a half day seminar,
Yeah.
and they paid pretty well, so I went. And I had to have a translator halfway through.
No
Like
way.
the host like translated some of the questions and stuff for me because yeah, I just didn't understand. It's just like different words, and I mean, you guys don't pronounce certain letters and stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway.
I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday with Jordan Syatt, and some guy from Ireland, his name was Kieran McHugh, asked a question.
Yeah.
Kieran
Right.
is spelled obviously with a Kieran, but
Yeah.
the Irish version is just Ciaran, and they're like Kieran, Kieran. They didn't know how to pronounce it. I was like Kieran, but maybe that's just something here.
So that one I would have had, but you know what got me? Siobhan.
Oh yeah.
Siobhan is the one that got me.
Yeah, the father there, the long aw sound, John. You know, I was a former teacher, but tell me, John, before you share your backstory, share something about yourself most people do not know.
Something most people do not know. I mean, I'm super introverted. That's one thing that a lot of people don't know, which is funny because I was a personal trainer on the floor. And now, I mean, you see my stupid face everywhere. And I've no issue speaking on stages and stuff like that, which is a common misconception about introversion is that you can't be around people. It's not true. It's I can be around people for a very dedicated, like intense period of time, and then I need to get the hell away. So one of the
Sure.
things that I've had to do in my career and even personal training and now kind of more public stuff or speaking or whatever it is, I've needed to figure out how to manage my energy because things like podcasts and stuff like this I enjoy doing, but they just wipe me. And so I've had
Yeah.
to really organize my schedule around it and stuff like that. And I basically organize my time so I just don't ever do Zoom calls, like Zoom meetings. I just don't have because I'm done for the day if I do them.
You're wiped.
Yeah.
Gotcha, John. Gotcha. Seeing as you mentioned, obviously being a PT, can you just share a bit about your backstory growing up in Toronto and how you actually got into fitness, John?
I got into fitness because I played sports my whole life and I was small. And being small in sports in Toronto, like you basically play ice hockey because that's like the only
Yeah.
sport that really matters here. And the other kids started growing and I didn't. And so I started going to the gym at like 15 in an attempt to, I guess, get stronger for ice hockey and stuff like that. And I realized very quickly that I didn't actually care about ice hockey that much. I cared more about myself. And in the gym, it was nice because I was always confused. There were all these platitudes by the coaches. It's like, play for the name on the front of your jersey, not for the back. Like, it doesn't, like, individual awards don't matter. Like, what matters is that the team wins and stuff like that. And I'm like, nah, I don't give a shit about the team. I want to do well. Right. And so I never quite understood that. I was never that good. So if we won, it's just we happened to be better than the other teams that decided to show up that day. It wasn't like we were actually good. It was just for whatever reason that day, the other team sucked a little bit more. And so it just seemed silly to me. But when I found the gym, it was competition against myself. And something about that, without knowing it at the time, I think really appealed to me. It was just, you get what you get out of it. Like, what you put in is what you get out. It's your effort. You're competing against yourself. You're not comparing yourself to others. And I started to find a lot of, I guess, solace in the gym. I started to find a lot of belonging in the gym. And I really, really enjoyed it. And then when it came time to go to university, I decided to do what all, young Jewish boys decide to do, which is go on a path towards medicine. And so I had to do something like science-y kind of. And so I went into university for kinesiology, basically exercise science. And I figured out that I kind of liked that more than like medicine stuff. I also probably wasn't a good enough student for medicine, if I'm honest. But I still thought that I was going to do like master's and PhD in muscle physiology. And I figured I'd be a personal trainer for a couple of years at a university and then go back to school for, master's and PhD. And that was kind of the path. And a couple of years into personal training, I was like, it's kind of fun. But what am I going to do for the rest of my life? I'm super busy right now. I don't have time for a girlfriend. I'm working, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks in the gym type thing. And so I started researching about multiple streams of income, about making money when you're not on your feet, because personal training is a service profession. And
What
this is
age
in
were you
like,
then, John?
I
Yeah,
was
sorry.
23 when I started that.
Wow.
And then I wrote a book for personal trainers. When I was 24 years old, I put out my first book for personal trainers. And it was such a silly thing to do. I feel like the world that we exist in today is one where we know too much about stuff and it stops us from doing it. Back then
Absolutely.
it wasn't like all of the reasons why I shouldn't have written the book weren't thrust in front of my face. There wasn't this like crazy comparison and stuff like that. And so, I wrote a book, I self-published it. Every step was just figuring out the next step of the way. Like, I didn't know what I was doing at any point. Whenever I did something in the gym with a client, I'd write it on the back of my clipboard, and then I'd go home that night and I'd write up a little bit more about what I did. And when I had enough of what I thought it was, I figured I should probably get an editor. I didn't know what editors did, but I knew they were involved in books, but I didn't know where to find editors. So I went to what I did know, which was the bookstore, because that's where books exist. And I figured I could find editors from there. And I looked in the books and I looked in fitness books and I cold emailed the authors of the fitness books. And I said, hey, can I get an introduction to your editor? And basically everybody responded. Brad Schoenfeld introduced me to Kelly James Anger, who became the editor of the book. And it was just one step after the next, after the next. And there were a lot of people at that point. This book was called Ignite the Fire. And there were a lot of people at that point who were much better suited to write that book than me, obviously, because I was 24. But they didn't. And I did. And that's why I have a book and they don't. And I think that's just a great lesson that perhaps foreshadowed a lot of my career. And so since then, started a website to promote the book. The website became the biggest website in the world for trainers. At its peak, it reached about 6 million people a year. And I've written a bunch of books. I mean, you gave all that stuff. And now I built software called Quick Coach for trainers. And I'm, 18 years into my fitness industry career, and
Wow.
I can't think of a better industry to work in. I don't know what I'm going to do in the fitness industry, but I know I'm going to be here. I like it.
Yeah. And John, how did that go down? Like, who's this young 24-year-old? Who does he think he is? he's the author of a book, and like I'm sure
You know,
there's coaches that's been obviously in the game for 20, 30 odd years. Did you get any kind of backlash off that?
yeah, there was some. I mean, there was some bullshit for sure. There was one guy in particular who was just a complete and utter ass. And he actually went so far as to hire English students to compare my book to his blog posts to try to like figure out where I copied him. And it was funny
Wow.
because I actually one of the things they said is like, this section is very similar to this blog post. I'm like, I interviewed you for a section similar to that, and I didn't publish it because you turned out to be a jackass like this. But you know exactly how those sections were written.
Sure.
And I mean, it was just complete nonsense. Like I didn't even know who this guy was, right? When I was writing the book, and I got to know him when it came time to promote the book because he was just in the industry. And so there was that. There were certainly some people who said some stuff, but less than you would think. And I think that's just a matter of perhaps the time. People didn't have a platform, or they just said it behind closed doors. You know, we live in a weird world right now where just because people can talk, I mean, kind of like what we're doing, right? Just because people decide that they can talk into their computer and send it to space and the world should listen, people feel like others have like a responsibility to listen and to give a shit. Whereas back then, a conversation that one bitter asshole has around his dinner table with two other bitter assholes stayed within those three bitter assholes. You know, they didn't put it out on the internet and like expect you to like see it and care about it. And so maybe there was more, I don't know.
Yeah.
But there was certainly a lot of support. You know, I think what I hit on at that time was something that is obvious now to people who work in the industry, but I was kind of the first person to like publish it, which was
The
that,
OG.
yeah, which was that, you know, as personal trainers, the quality of the workout that we give a client actually matters a lot less than our ability to get a client to want to do that workout. And so the psychology comes first. How do we get somebody to want to do a thing that's going to be better for them and encourage them to adhere to it? And then once we accomplish that, then we can talk about optimizing the program and the science and the biomechanics and the physiology. But like that seems obvious, but it wasn't at the time. And it certainly was not in any of the information. But it was something that I think a lot of people were thinking about. And when that book came out, it was much harder to publish a book. When my website came out, it was much harder to publish a website. Not that it was hard, but it was harder. And so if you had a physical book, it was like something that set me apart. Because I had a website, it was something that set me apart. Whereas now, I mean, everybody's got a full media studio in their phones. There's all these, you know, like I had a website, like I had to pay a guy, like I didn't know anybody who made websites, but this is the same story as the book. I knew I needed a website, or I wanted a website. I had one client who had a website. Her name was Alexandra Orlando. She's an Olympian. She actually has the record for most gold medals ever in the Commonwealth Games as well,
No
by
way.
anybody. Yeah, she won 6. Yeah, she's probably the best Canadian rhythmic gymnast ever. Anyway, she was a client of mine at the time. And so she had a website. So I was like, yo, Alex, who did your website? She's like, oh, Pat did. He's awesome. I called up Pat. I was like, yo, Pat, you want to build my website? Pat built my website. It was like that, but I paid him $1,500, which was a lot of money. And then I like taught myself basic HTML. I taught myself basic Photoshop on the internet, reading blog posts. Like you had to acquire those skills back then, which meant that if you saw something that somebody wrote online, or if you saw like a physical book that somebody had, there was a lot more confidence that it wasn't shit because somebody had put more effort into it to do it. It's too easy these days to do a bad job at something and put it out in the world and pretend that you're like doing work. That actual good work stands out more, but it's hard to sift through all of the bad stuff. The other piece of it is that still to this day, not many people actually put out like tangible work into the world. If you really think about it, there's a lot of digital media. Some of the digital media is quite good, But for the most part, like real stuff that you can hold, that you can share, that you can pass on, there's actually still not a lot of it. And one of the things that I find really sets people apart from one another is somebody who's willing to like add some finality into what they do. The problem with digital media is there's no finality to it. Whereas if you write a book, it's final. Like once that ink's printed on that page and that thing ships out to somebody, you can't change it. It forces a level of seriousness. There's an expense, there's a cost to do it. It forces this level of thinking and effort and proactive effort versus like, we're just going to sit down and like shoot the shit for an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And because I had that early, if it was just easier, like I'm kind of in this position now that a lot of my mentors, I mean, we all stand on the shoulders of giants, that they were in at that point. Somebody would ask him a question like, I got over 2,000 Instagram messages in the last 2.5 days. Like, how in the hell am I going to answer in any way? And like, some of them are questions, some of them are inquiries, like they're just like all over the place. And this, you know, this is what was happening when people get emails and stuff like that, asking them questions about personal training. Well, the easiest thing to do is say, oh, you know, you should go buy this guy's book, or you should go like check out this guy's book. Because I had a book and like nobody else did, these mentors, and I sent them the book and stuff like that. And I included them, which is like a hack. If you ever put out anything, include as many people as you possibly can in that thing. Because
that was
all
something
of them
that I
will
noted.
share.
In Ignite the Fire, you reference like a lot of other coaches.
There's over 90 people referenced in there. That's 100% on purpose. If I had an idea that I thought was a good idea, I set my ego aside and still try to do this as much as possible and say, well, I can't have been the only person who came up with this.
Sure.
And so I'm going to go find somebody else who came up with this, and I'm going to include them in the book. And then I'm going to send them a copy and say I included them in the book, because now they have some ownership over the thing. And they probably don't have a book. They probably, and as a result, now this thing, it's just like nodes
it's
on
a compounding effect.
About. Yeah.
Well, John, you writing that book, Ignite the Fire. So this literally lit a spark for me, because I qualified in college 2016 as a teacher, bought that book in 2017. And that was like the first kind of like time that it clicked that, like, you know what, there's actually possibility in this industry to become a career.
You were a teacher. How many years were you a teacher for?
4.5 years.
4.5. So why in the hell did you buy? You had a secure job teaching. Why in the world did you buy a book on personal training? Like, what about it? I'm curious. Indulge me here.
So I was in, we traveled the West Coast for America 2016, and I was in like Muscle Beach in LA. And I saw these guys that were jacked out their mind, and I was like, surely like they got to go to work, or what is their job? And then it kind of clicked to me that, you know what, like it actually is possible to do this, something you're passionate about, for a living. So at the time, as naive as I was like, geez, I'd be much happier going to the gym as my place of work than going to school. So I just Googled SEO, baby, as you would say, how to become, or personal trainer tips, or books on how to become a personal trainer.
Something like that.
Who popped up? Jonathan Goodman. And obviously, I bought that first book, bought like Firenomics, bought a few more. And my aha moment was, John, I was playing a GA match. And at the time, I was meant to see a client afterwards. Gaelic football, sorry.
Oh, yeah, that sport's vicious, right?
Hurling is the vicious one. It's like hurling is the fastest field sport. Yeah. Gaelic football, it's like a combination of obviously a round ball in soccer, and you're able to use your hands, and it's not too far from rugby in terms of the physicality. But I was meant to coach a client, John, in the gym the day after that Gaelic football match, and I got a concussion. And then I couldn't meet my client because I was concussed. I wasn't in a position to train him. And that was like my...
You were trying to hug the other guy, and you just bumped heads, right? Yeah. No, I get it.
But that was my moment then that made me realize that even if I was on the floor, that, you know, if I did get injured, do I like yourself, is this sustainable? And that's where like the online coaching came on. So long story short, I just have Jonathan Goodman, for all our listeners here, to thank so much for actually helping me transition into becoming a full-time online coach.
There you go. I'm glad, man. I mean, look, my situation is not dissimilar from yours in terms of I had an injury playing a sport that's very stereotypical to my country. I mean, I was playing ice hockey. It's the same type of thing. I played ice hockey my whole life. I played university. I played after university for 5 or 6 years. And now I haven't had a winter in Canada for 10 years, so I don't play anymore. But I got tripped. I mean, we call it slew footed, where like somebody basically takes their stick and pushes one skate into the other skate. So you like kind of like tip over like that. And it's just like a really cheap, like stupid move to do to somebody. It's like, if you're going to hit me, you know, don't just, anyway. So this guy tripped me and I pulled a hamstring. Not a big deal, but I was off my feet for 2 weeks. And I was like, wow, something like this can take me out for 2 weeks and I don't make money. Like, how am I going to have a family? Change. How am I going to, you know, I like what I'm doing. It's not like I didn't like it. I enjoyed it. I loved my clients, but it was just like, there's got to be something else here. So when I was searching for the stuff like multiple streams of income, it wasn't to get away from the gym. It was like, I know that I need to supplement this with something.
Yeah.
And I was searching for anything. I mean, I studied residential real estate investing for 6 months. I built 2 business plans for smoothie operations. Like, it wasn't, because this was, keep in mind, I mean, this was 2008, like online marketing, particularly like online information marketing. Don't get me wrong, it existed, but you had to go out and find it. And if you didn't, nobody sent you 10 DMs a day saying, hi, I could be out of lunch here, but are you a fitness coach? Or like, what's the one now? It's like, hey, John, I I could be wrong, but do you by any chance coach women?
Yeah. How long have you been coaching?
Yeah, right. And it's just, that didn't exist back then. You had to go and find it, or you knew somebody who had found it, who kind of pulled you into it. And I just happened to stumble across some books in the library. I mean, quite literally, I would go to the bookstore and find all the marketing books, all the books on streams of income that were bestsellers in the bookstore. And I walked across the street to the library and I checked them out. And then, and the back of those books, they'd often have recommended book lists or stuff that they quoted. And I would just go through those and circle them and just reserve them all at the library. And I mean, this is what you could do in your early 20s. I had nothing else to do. I mean, all day, every day. And then I started to go into more research and stuff, which is what led me to write Filenomics. But that's how it all came about. It was the same type of thing as you. It wasn't like I need to be an online fitness coach. It was just like, yeah, I have this problem. What's a viable solution? And I see that as an issue now amongst a lot of people, not just in fitness, just across the board, where they don't quite know what their problem is yet, but they already have jumped to a solution. And the solution that they jump to is something that they've just seen before, but it's actually not the right solution for them. It might not be a bad solution, like it might not be like a bad idea, but good information doesn't necessarily mean it's good information for you. Like the guy who, you know, is a day trader of like, you know, meme stocks or whatever it is, might be really, really smart at what he does. He might be putting out good information, but if you're somebody more like me, that's more of kind of a value investor, long-term investor, like it's irrelevant. It's not the right information. It's good information that's good for somebody else. But I would never know this if I hadn't taken a step back and read 10 books on the psychology of investing and the philosophy of money and money management, and then built my own personal money philosophy along with my wife about how we want to think about these things and live our life, because now we know what information to listen to and what information not to.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of people, athletes, for instance, who want to get quicker, faster, and stronger for their sport, yet they're following like a bro split and a bodybuilding workout because they may not have that background knowledge or information.
And there's nothing wrong with that workout. It's just, it's not going to help you solve your problem.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that there's, and this is like the conversation we need to have about fitness on the internet, isn't it? I mean, the only, there's some things that are like unequivocally wrong and like clearly stupid, like all of these like carnivore diet experts who basically are just like convincing young people who don't know anything about fitness and health that vegetables are bad and that they need to live a paleo diet. And by the way to do that is to buy my highly processed bullshit pills. It's like, clearly that's complete and utter nonsense, but that's an exception, not the rule.
Absolutely.
That's just my opinion. Go on.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you on that, John. And obviously for yourself, building your business, you always said, John, that like there's the three pillars in your life, your health, your wealth of your business, and your family. It's very hard to keep all three of them consistent and at a 10 out of 10 at all times.
Right.
So tell me, John, because you were building your business, there's a lot of busy professionals here working 50, 60 hours a week. Do you have any tips for anyone there listening who work long hours, but they don't want their fitness to completely like take a setback?
Don't want to have their fitness. I mean, I would say that the way that I view it is there's seasons of life. I mean, I've effectively three competing priorities. I've got my business, I've got my family, and I've got my health.
Yeah.
And I say competing priorities. I don't think they necessarily have to compete, but I view it almost like a triangle, and I have never been able to figure out how to optimize all three at the same time. Yeah. I can optimize two, and I can put one on maintenance mode. And so the way that I have done it is I split my year into two pieces. So family is always optimized. And when I say optimize, I mean like doing things to try to better that thing for the future. Like maintenance mode is like, all right, we're good how we are. We probably won't get any better right now, but like we can't get worse.
Sure.
Yeah. Optimize means like I'm trying to like actively get better. Like it might not work, but I'm like trying to actively get better. And so I split my year into basically two halves. I mean, I don't like exactly like split it, but basically into two halves. And family is always optimized, and then fitness is optimized for half the year, and business is optimized for half the year. And so it doesn't mean I'm ignoring one at any one point, but that's the way that I kind of look at it. Is like, okay, I'm in a season right now where I'm going to really push my fitness forward. I'm in a season right now where I'm going to really push my business forward, because what happens is these things grow in like a stepwise fashion where with the body, I mean, the body that you've attained, like it's way easier for you to maintain the physique you have right now. And even if you take time off, you get it back really quick, because you have it. That's just,
you've done the reps. Yeah.
You've done the reps, you've put in the work. I mean, the muscle cells are the only multinucleate cell in the body, which means that if a muscle cell grows, basically your body deposits more nuclei into it. Even if that muscle cell shrinks, the information in that cell is still there from when it was bigger.
Yeah.
So if you train again that muscle, it will bounce back much quicker than if it was never. So getting out of that homeostasis mode and like pushing forward and like improving, you've got to like really push your comfort zone. Like it's hard to get there, but once you get there, it's way easier to stay or get back to there again. Well, money in business kind of works the same way. I mean, obviously the physiology isn't there, but when you kind of figure out like the rules of engagement, it's hard to like really make something great for sure, but it's not that hard to do pretty well. And when I say the rules of engagement, I look at it as there are a few very important complementary skill sets that I think any person should attain when it comes to business and development. And one is money management. Another is behavioral psychology. Another is marketing. And another is being able to write. Because if you develop those skill sets, even like an 80-20, like you take like 2 months and go deep into each one of those, you're going to be unstoppable, combining that with subject matter expertise on the other side. And because most people who have subject matter expertise have no idea what to do with it. And as a result, they get like kicked around and abused by the people who understand how to actually build a business out of it. and then they complain that it's not
Yeah.
fair. Well, like whether it's fair or not is irrelevant. This is how the world works. So either play the game or don't play the game, but don't complain if you decide not to play the game. And so if you acquire these 4 skills, well, it actually doesn't really matter what industry you're in, because you can then build enough of a subject matter expertise in any industry to attack it relatively quickly. Or you can find somebody in that industry who has it and build a business around them without too much trouble. And so it kind of makes you unstoppable. And so when I think about like optimizing business, I'm actually developing more and more and more of those skill sets.
Sure.
And that's, I mean, that's been my forte. Like writing is my forte, and it's kind of the base of anything else. I mean, no matter what, like the reason why I like if you think about what the goal of all of this is, to me it's freedom, and freedom is the ability to do what you want, how you want, with who you want, when you want. That's quite literally it. And money could be a path to freedom, but it's not the only path to freedom, and enough money will probably get you there as long as other things are in place. And one of the most important things of freedom is not having stress or worry. And one of the ways that I've achieved and try to continue to achieve not having stress and worry is building these skill sets, knowing that no matter what happens, nobody can take those skill sets away from me.
It's awesome.
And I can build back up no matter where, right?
Yeah. John, I'm curious, what's the difference? So when you're in maintenance mode versus when you want to optimize your fitness, what would it would say like a typical week for maintenance versus optimization look like for you?
Maintenance mode is like, I'm trying to get 3 workouts in a week. I'm happy if I get 3, I might get 2. I'm doing full body training, generally doing like 10 to 12 reps of an exercise with, a couple reps, 1 or 2 reps in the hole, like an OPE of like an 8 to 9, like if you're familiar with that, 1 or 2 reps in the hole. Like I can do like 1 or 2 more reps in the set. Like I'm not
Absolute
going to
failure.
absolute failure. And then just like going for a lot of walks. I mean, I'm always running. I've got a 5-year-old and a new baby. Like I'm always like cardio, like steady state cardio is not an issue at this stage of my life. I mean, I ride my bike to school to drop off my son at school every day. Except our schools are all going on strike tomorrow. So I don't know. We'll see how long that goes. Yeah, the joys of sending your kid to public school. This will be my first strike as a parent. Won't be my last, I'm sure. And so that's kind of maintenance mode. When I'm pushing forward, I will try to hit 5 days a week, even 6 in a good week.
Yeah.
And I'm going body part splits. So I'm going like this is just what I find works for me is chest, back, shoulders, legs, arms, core, and on arms core day, I'm doing like some pretty high intense interval cardio as well.
Yeah.
And on those, I follow undulating periodization. So I'll do a 4-week plan. I'll cycle through each workout 6 times over the course of a plan. So I'll basically go workout ABC, workout ABC, workout ABC. So if I hit 6 workouts a week, I'll do 2 of each, right? If I hit 5, I'll do 2 of them and 1 of the other. And then I'll ramp up. So week 1 is generally like a deload week. So week 1 is generally 3 sets, RPE like 8. Week 2 is 4 sets, RPE 8, so increase volume. Week 3 is 4 sets, RPE of like 9. Sorry, week 3 is RPE 9. Week 4 is generally 4 sets, RPE like 9.5, 10, like, and then I just
hard
cycle back.
Yeah, I like it.
Week 1, and I'll cycle that way. And I find that works really well for me because I'm just at a stage right now where I can't, like, I think I had 2 hours of sleep last night. I mean, it just, with young kids like this, I can't depend on my sleep. I can't depend on recovery the same way as I would otherwise do. So I need that week every 4 weeks to just kind of take it easy and let my body heal.
Yeah. John, you always say fitness is boring. It's just a case of doing, I agree, the same 10 to 15 exercises repetitively. What would you say to someone who spends too much time looking at IG for highlights and doesn't really understand the process that for the most part you're training these movement patterns repetitively.
Mhm.
And that is the process you start with, and that's probably going to be the process you finish with.
I mean, assess your priorities. Are you happy with how things are going? Like, by all means, shit, do it. Like, have fun. It doesn't matter. But I mean, physiologically, we know that that's not the best way to grow. Like we grow based off of consistent progressive stimulus that our body adapts to. If you don't give your body consistent stimulus that is progressively more difficult, then your body will never adapt. And those neural gains and those muscular gains, and you're always having a little bit of both at any one point in time, but generally muscular gains in earnest only start kicking in at 4 to 6 weeks of a program, depending on how well trained you are and some genetic factors and stuff. The majority of your gains at the beginning of a program are actually neural. And so most people never actually get to that point where they see real physique muscular gains because they switch up the program too quick. You've actually got to repeat the same movements progressively and making them harder for a minimum of 4 weeks, probably closer to 6 to 8, before you start seeing any real muscular gains. And then, I mean, I don't need to tell you this, Adrian, because I'm sure you've seen it. There's just a switch that flips, man. With a minute, like, you know it. Like, I look at myself in the mirror, my wife looks at me, and she's just like, shit, you're getting thick, right? And I'm like, yeah, buddy, let's put the kids to bed. And it's just, and then she's like, no, I'm tired. I've been taking care of a baby all day. And I'm like, all right, shit, let's watch some TV. But it's, you know, it sometimes it's game time. But the point of this is, like, most people never get to that stage
because they
and then they
change too
wonder,
quickly.
like, why are they, like, they're working out the same amount of time. Those beginners in the gym who have obviously never been to the gym before, and then there's, I would call them almost like novices, and novices are people who have never actually followed an intelligent program. And the majority of people in the gym are novices, even if they've been going to the gym for years. They've just never, I mean, walk into any gym, how many people are you looking that are like tracking anything? They're just kind of making it up as they go. Even trainers, they're just kind of making it up as they go, where they're like, oh yeah, you know, I kind of like think of the workout that I'm going to do that morning, and I just give it to my clients and stuff. It's like, well, that's cool. Like, if your clients are happy, like, all the power to. And if you're happy doing that, like, great, but don't complain then
when you're
if you're not getting great results.
Sure.
And so but at the same time, I use the word boring. I don't think it's boring. I use the word boring because one of the things that I do on social media all the time is I'm testing different phrasings. And, like, for some reason, whenever I include the word boring in a post, that post just, like, blows up. And I don't know why, but there's a secret for all you who are, like, marketing fitness. Like, talk about boring fitness because everybody wants to be like, yeah, I do boring stuff. I don't quite understand it, but I just take in feedback and iterate based off of the feedback, and that's what it's told me. But I don't think it's boring. I think intelligent programming is fascinating because when you start doing it, it's like this, like, grand kind of puzzle, you know, putting it together. And what are you going to work on, and how are you going to get better at that thing? And I mean, I can show you progress on a couple key exercises, and it's really, really fun to see. It's like, well, shit, like, I remember when I, like, failed at 5 reps on this weight. Well, the next time I was able to hit 6, right? And then I hit 6 the next time. Then I hit 8. Then I cranked up the weight, and I hit 6 again.
That is
and it's
the
just
best
like,
feeling ever.
Well, but it's like every workout. The way that I do it is not week 1, but week 2, 3, 4. Every workout, I'm making it harder. Every single workout, I'm making it harder. Now, this is difficult to do in a lot of conventional gyms because a lot of conventional gyms don't have micro loading apparatuses. Basically, like a jump at 5 pounds in a dumbbell is a huge
quite
jump.
significant.
It's a huge jump for a lot of exercises. Even on a barbell, you know, if you want to make it even, you're talking about 5 pounds, whereas you can get plate mates, you can get micro loading stuff, or great gyms have dumbbells and stuff like that often go up by like 2.5. And
Sure.
the lower weights, like even 1 or 1.5. Because if you're
Yeah.
doing like a lateral raise or something like that, you're not going up 5 pounds. Like you
Yeah,
might never be
absolutely.
able to progress.
Yeah.
And so it can be really difficult to do that, which is where kind of playing around with volume or loading schemes and stuff like that helps. But that's a whole much more
Yeah.
complicated conversation.
John, I'm conscious of your time here. I'm just curious before we wrap things up, what is you're someone who always loves to, like, it seems like, work in something new, implement it, and then once it's implemented, it's like
Just
the way your
destroy
brain
it,
is wired. Yeah.
destroy it, and then move on to the next.
And then move on
You're
to the
picking out a
next. Yeah.
wound, my friend. You're picking out a wound.
Tell me something though, John. What's something that you're excited about now at the moment? Business, health, family related, anything in general.
Well, family related, we have a new baby. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a bit of a miracle baby. Jaden's 6 months old. We had 4 miscarriages, and a cancer diagnosis on the path to having him. And we had kind of like accepted that we might not have another baby. And so he's a bit of a miracle baby, and it's such a joy. Like he's 7 months now. Watching him grow up and like begin to get a bit of a personality, and he's super fun and joyful. And then my oldest, who's 5.5, him interacting with Jaden is just so much fun. So like that's everything to me. My business baby is the software's quick coach that we put out.
Yeah.
Which by the time this podcast comes out, we could be at 20,000 users. I'm not sure, but it's been a really fun, challenging project. Software is like nothing I've ever done. I mean, you put out a book and a book's done and it's final, and you either do a good job or you don't do a good job. You put out software and there's people using it. I mean, we have tens of thousands of trainers using it with probably hundreds of thousands. I haven't looked at the stats, but probably hundreds of thousands of clients.
Of their clients, yeah.
On any given day. And they're all using it differently. And then they're all like asking for stuff about how they want it to form. And it's kind of my job to listen to them or to figure out how to listen to them. And what I have, it's made me so much better at everything else that I've done, because software has forced me to consider something called second and third order consequences more than anything. And which basically means if I do this today, what is that going to cause down the line? And what is that thing then possibly going to cause happen down the line? Yeah. And I've never really had to consider that to this extent before, but it's made me so much better at everything else. It's made me a much better decision maker. And I think what we've built is just beautiful. I think it's the best out there for our field, without question, for the types of people that it's for. And that's the biggest key, is like, we're just dialed in on who it's for and who it's not for. Like if you're a trainer who trains less than 30 clients, like this is the best software in the world for you. There's no question. If you have 100 clients or you want to do like an automated program with like 500 people because you're an influencer, don't use our software. Right. And it's just, it's that clear cut. So that's super fun. And then I don't know, I'll figure out something else to do in a few years, but I feel like the software will keep me busy for another year or two.
Awesome. Yeah.
Until I kind of want to next... I kind of want to like Craigslist it. You know, I figure in the middle of next year, we're going to be done. We're going to be effectively finished building it. Because I'm of the opinion that feature bloat and building more and more, like we won't have a single integration with any tool ever. You know, once we're done our core features, which we just have like 2 or 3 more to do. I mean, it's like the stuff that we're adding is like a payment request feature, right? Once we're done that, like we're done. Like it's perfect. Like there's nothing else that needs to be done. And so that's the Craigslist thing. Like when you're finished, you're finished. Then you just provide customer service.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. You've come a long way from Ignite the Fire, John. Always evolving. John, we're going to finish with just 5 rapid fire, and then we will wrap it up. So, John, you've obviously traveled the world. Out of all the places you've traveled to, where's your favorite? Where's been your favorite?
With a family or without? Because it changes.
With and without. Let's go with 1 and 1. Okay.
Without a family, I have extremely fond memories of Kauai. So an island in Hawaii. Allison and I went there when we were pregnant with Calvin, and it was just, a month of just seclusion and paradise, and
Awesome.
it was incredible. But with a family, I would not, I would not spend a lot of time there. It's way too secluded. With family, I mean, we go to a little town in Mexico called Sayulita, and this will be my 5th winter in a row there. So we'll be there for 3 months this year. We've been there 4 to 6 months every year for the last 5 years. And it is, I mean, I love Mexico, man. It's vibrant, it's energetic, it's musical, it's colorful. There's amazing food. It's always interesting. It's close to Canada. The time zone's convenient. Like, it's just everything that you need. And then it's super safe for families, and it's super family oriented, which is
Awesome.
great.
If you could only have one breakfast for the rest of your life, John, what would it be?
I eat basically the same thing every day. I'm so boring with food because I don't particularly like food. I'm like, I find food, I feel like food is a bit of a nuisance over the course of my day. I don't like the fact that it like interrupts me because I need to eat, which is why I've never been able to like put on serious mass, because I get bored eating and I just get up from the table and leave.
Sure.
So I eat the same thing every morning. I eat like basically a breakfast burrito. I make it with some scrambled eggs with usually a little bit of milk, put a piece of bacon in there, put some fresh basil from our garden if it's summertime, and then a little bit of like green like salsa, and wrap it up in a burrito shell and a tortilla shell.
Awesome. What's one new habit you've implemented since last year, John?
I don't know. Habits? I'm not a habits guy. I'll pass on this one. I don't really need habits. I get the value of them. My brain just doesn't work that way. I'm too scattershot all over the place.
Sure.
I have found that like I have like all of the journals, like the productivity planner and the 5-minute journal. Like, 2 very good friends created that. Like I've had all of those journals, and I do it for 2 days and then I put it down.
Gotcha.
I have found that it's
not for John Goodman.
Yeah, I found that it's much better for me to figure out how I work and build my day around that. And so the biggest change that I made in the last year or two has just been focus on the mantra of do less but better. I stare into space for the majority of my day. I don't do very much. And when I do something, I think carefully about the effect and the importance of it, and I try to do it really, really well.
I love that. Okay, awesome. Second last question, John. What do you feel is the most underrated gym exercise out there that most people should do more of?
Gym. I've always thought, I mean, I'll talk about for guys. I don't know if it's quite the same for women, but upper back training.
Yeah. Classic.
Purely for physique. I mean, you want that V-shaped physique. I mean, sure, for posture, but you want that V-shaped physique. Like, guys are so focused on their abs and stuff like that. I've always found it odd that everybody focuses on training to look good without a shirt on, but 98% of the people who ever see you with a shirt on. So it seems to make sense to me to actually train to look better with a shirt than without one. And the way to do that is upper back, shoulder width, basically.
Yeah, brilliant. Final question, John, because this is the Lifestyle Lifters show. What is your definition of living a successful lifestyle?
Freedom to be able to do what I want with who I want, how I want, when I want. If I can have that, I'm good, man. I'm always going to compare myself to others. I'm always going to be jealous. I'm always going to fall prey to all the bullshit human condition stuff. But whenever I take a step back and I check myself, I'm like, nah, things are pretty good. Like if I'm comparing myself to somebody else, I have to be willing to trade everything that I have with that person. And I've yet to find anybody where that's the case.
Unreal. John, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And tell me, John, for all the listeners out there who want to learn more about you and what you offer, where is the best place?
I mostly hang out on Instagram. It's at Coach Goodman. It's a terrible handle. just tells you how I do things. I'm late to everything. So I had to get It's Coach Goodman, which is not even proper grammar because there's no sky commas in like the name. So it should be like It Is Coach Goodman, but that would be even worse. So it's just ITS, which is bad grammar. And so it's just a shitty name, but It's Coach Goodman on Instagram. And then if you're in the fitness industry, check out our software. It's 100% free to use. It's called Quick Coach.
Quick Coach. Brilliant. Brilliant. John, thanks so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Brilliant.
Tell me
100%.
if you need the recording, and if you downloaded it fine on your end, let me know so I can delete it on mine, kid.
I may need the recording if that is all right. If today isn't a good day, I know you're a little
I'll load it,
tired.
doesn't matter.
Absolutely no worries.
Yeah. I'll load it and just send you the link, and then just tell me when you download it so I can just wipe it.
100%. 100%. John, I'll just take a quick snap.
Oh.
There we go.
There you go.
John,
Bye-bye.
thanks so much for your time.
Talk soon.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.